Hello and welcome everybody to the Tencent League of Legends Pro League here. We're in week 3 on the final day of play here in day 3. We're going to start things off with a pretty epic game here as well. It's going to be Young Glory there on your left, up against Royal Club on your right. My name is Pastry Tap and I'm going to be joined by Papa Smithy. Papa, how you feeling here? Last day of what's been a great week of coverage so far.
I'm feeling pretty good, Pastry Time, and this one's an interesting one just because we saw Young Glory. Look, they took down a victory yesterday against EPHK. It was kind of a weird game, but the Shyvana pick, not the Casio pick, but the Shyvana pick really caught us off guard and actually looked interesting. And I was just looking over the files, and her rework is super, super interesting from a damage perspective and how to fit her into a comp. Now, teams are trying her out. It was good to see her in competitive. Will we see her again today?
I'm not sure of the bans, of course. You can see there Cassian and Zach, the first few bans there from YG. And I really like this ban from Royal. Twitch is actually their first ban. And I'm going to put Lee Sin in there as well. And in fact, if you were following the last 2 days of play, we saw quite a lot of Twitch, especially towards the end of those first 2 days. So clearly a champion that is on the minds of the players here and is going to get banned out. And Caitlyn as well. Looks like they're going to target that one against Uzi and Elise, the last one here for Royal.
And the last time these two teams met up was on the second day of the first week of the LPL. And Caitlyn, once again in Royal's hands, specifically on Uzi, taking down 3 turrets and pushing for the win was their strategy that day. Teams have been targeting banning the Caitlyn out. And even though she's had those nerfs, even though she's kind of in the middle of the range, still a very desirable pick for sieging, it's that sieging comp that's brought Royal the most success this tournament. Why not just ban it out?
Absolutely, something that Royal has clearly played to a T, and no team seems to want to play against it anymore, and not too surprised there. This also unsurprising here for YG. Ryze is going to be the first pick up here in their draft, and Royal are going to go ahead and follow up with Jarvan and Thresh there, but I mean, Ryze, Papa, almost every single time he's been available, it seems like he's getting picked up.
And look, the win rate that they had on screen before vindicates it. 74% win rate is really, really high for competitive play. Very high pick and ban rate. Just a flexible champion. It opens up a mid and bottom lane, a mid and top lane choice. It's ambiguous and it's super, super strong, and it works against a lot of comps. It's very strong against AoE. It's almost the death knell to AoE is that if Ryze ever gets ahead and can stand in the middle of AoE magic damage, super, super strong.
Yeah, it looks like the bottom lane getting picked up here as well for YG. We've got Vayne actually going here with Sona, which is not a combo we see too much of. And speaking of, I guess, champions you don't see too often, Tristan is going to make it in here as well. The insta-lock there for Uzi. He clearly knows the champion he wants to pick up. And looks like Orianna might make it in here as well. But, you know, we've seen Sona, certainly she's been a mainstay pretty much since she was released, sorry. But I usually see that paired with something like Ezreal, you know, a little bit more poke-oriented. Here's Sona Vayne, slightly weaker lane, but of course Vayne still a very prized AD carry as well.
Absolutely, and Vayne is just super, super popular. People have been experimenting with all sorts of lanes with Vayne. There's been Vayne Nami, which on paper is quite a weak lane, but I mean, it does scale well into late game. Vayne Zara also, as we see Zara being moused over. Not going to be a AD Zara. The young guns, young Glory have actually been playing that AP Zara, so it wouldn't be too surprising, but it looks like the Diana pickup's coming out here.
And your friend that you mentioned earlier, actually, I believe, is also making a reappearance here. That last pick is Shyvana to go along with Diana there as well for YG. So kind of an interesting pick there. The last one we did see her, I believe, in the final game of yesterday, or maybe one of the last 2 games there. But, you know, kind of confused us. You know, which champion was that? It was definitely not Cassiopeia, as we figured out. And Shyvana is going to be the last pickup here for YG, so clearly taking something away from yesterday.
And look, the reworked Shyvana, this is the first patch that she's been live, the 3.9 patch. It's just really super interesting. I mean, the change on the E ability was the thing that defined the kit there, adding that pass-through damage instead of just being a line nuke that stopped at the first target, and also the maximum health damage. I mean, it just increases her damage output in fights, which was never her weak point. So she still doesn't have the jungle ganking CC, you know, that you usually expect from the jungle. She doesn't really synergize with a lot of support builds, although, you know, she could definitely build an Aegis or Bulwark on her. She's super, super interesting. We didn't see the full genesis of a Shyvana build last game. We only saw the Spirit of the Ancient Golem, and the game kind of ended abruptly. So I'd love to see where the Shyvana build goes.
Yeah, and of course the last few picks there rounding out as Eve going to get picked up as the jungler there, so they're actually going to lane that Jarvan and have Evelynn as their jungle instead there for Royal. So kind of interesting teams both sides, some curious picks I'd say. I think definitely for Royal the Tristana sticks out to me a little bit there. If you notice the win rate before on screen, it's about 50% there. It hasn't been picked all that much so far either, which isn't too surprising. Tristana not the most popular AD carry. And then I guess Shyvana is going to be the one here for YG, because again, I think the second time we've seen it so far in this tournament.
I mean, on the Royal side, we see a lot of AoE initiation here between the Cataclysm, you know, the Command Shockwave, and of course the Evelynn ult. You can see it's just a devastating initiation with the Thresh box as well. Oh, as Shyvana gets face checked there, but will live. And, I mean, Tristana at the back, utilizing her range. Of course, she does eventually outscale Caitlyn's range, and they've shown a lot of preference for Caitlyn, but she's not the lane bully that Caitlyn is. She does have that burst potential early, but she won't be as strong as Caitlyn in terms of getting those 3 outer turrets down. And whenever Royal have had that 3 turret advantage early and have been able to really push, that's when they've looked their strongest. Yeah, Tristana won't give you that early, but I mean, late game, they have a fearsome team fight come.
Yeah, Royal are one of those interesting teams where we actually see them move through the brush here. So Royal just really trying to make sure they get their ward set up level 1. You saw they checked out Shyvana there, who did manage to get away there, and just multiple wards being put down here at level 1 to cover. In fact, it looks like they might even be going for an invade here, potentially. No, they're actually going to leave the blue side of the jungle there as well. So I don't want to go too hard, but Royal are an interesting team. They're definitely someone who feels somewhat centered around their star AD carry player Uzi, but he's an interesting player for an AD himself, because he seems to play quite aggressively. You know, when he starts snowballing, his team tends to do really well, and that's where something like a Caitlyn pick really makes sense. Tristana can have a similar sort of snowball going as well, with, again, her aggressive burst early on, but it feels like if the mid game isn't going great for Royal once they get there, then they could have a little bit of trouble with that pick.
Yeah, Royal does have an interesting identity. You know, sometimes, like, on the first match day when we saw them playing 4 assassins and an AD carry, like, you could see they were all about the dive. They weren't looking to peel for their infamous AD carry. Yeah, much more balanced comp coming out here. I mean, they don't really have an identity. They don't play at one speed, and it seems like they're always kind of investigating as to where they want to go with their team comps.
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely got some veterans in their team in Whites and Makako Tabe, but yeah, they like to mix it up. We saw Whites actually playing Fizz in this weekend as well, so, you know, he clearly likes to do some fun stuff every now and then, but playing nice and standard Orianna here, which, as you noted, will pair very, very nicely with that Evelynn and that Jarvan in there as well. That's plenty of ball carrying ability there for Ori, which, of course, she always needs. Tabe, as you can see, taking quite a bit of damage down here in the bottom lane, actually. He's a little bit unhappy with that, but he'll throw down his pink ward, clear that one out there as well, and we'll see how this goes out. As you kind of noted, Vayne, sort of a weak lane. I definitely expect Royal to have at least an early advantage here with their aggressive Thresh plus Tristana.
And with all the early wards down, I mean, Royal definitely have the advanced knowledge on Shyvana, but Shyvana's not really a ganking jungler. I wouldn't be surprised to see her really trying to power farm the jungle with her fast clear and, of course, the increased clear speed, you know, the increased respawn on the camps. So it does open up Evelynn to have perfect knowledge of when it's going to be a 2v1 situation when ganking lanes, but we'll have to see if Lucky can take advantage of that.
Yeah, it's possible they actually just warded through there to maybe check if she was leaving her jungle and look for potential counter jungle, because that is, of course, what Shyvana was famous for when she first exploded onto the scene all those years ago. I mean, it could just, again, keeping tabs on the jungle is a good idea generally, so interesting to see what Royal want to do there with that one, but as you noted, Eve there, definitely more aggressive. Actually hanging out in mid, they're going to do a little bit of damage there as Otto throws out the overload there, just for a tad of damage, but not going to be too much there. Just a little bit of pressure applied early there for Lucky. Going to kind of test the waters there in mid, see how it goes. Down the bottom now, you can see Dragon just trading back and forth here, kind of push back here. Tristana famously auto-pushes her lanes pretty much with Explosive Shot, especially because that's the usual max we see, although I did spot a second point in Rocket Jump there for Triss, so could be the more traditional, more burst-heavy Rocket Jump max here first for Uzi, and he'll probably skip a point of Rapid Fire as well on the way to level 6, just so you can maximize the early burst potential in there as well.
A very comparable lane as Tristana and Vayne in that, of course, they're about the late game, but both of them, they need varying levels of babying. Like, Vayne is actually very strong at levels 1 and 2, then kind of falls away. Tristana 2 and 3 for burst. I guess, you know, they're actually quite similar in that way. Then Tristana really wants to max that rapid fire as soon as possible just to give her that incredible team fight steroid. But if she puts too many points into it in lane, she kind of loses a bit of lane presence there. So they're both trying to get through lane with as much CS as possible. Small lead coming out from Uzi.
Yeah, trade actually coming out there. Lucky forced a flash there over the top as Sizz did actually do quite a bit of damage there. So, I mean, I think one of the issues with Evelynn, you know, she's a great ganker, especially once she hits 6. She's obviously very annoying there with that stealth moving through all those green wards, but one thing she's not particularly good at, especially with the items, is 1v1ing, and now White's is going to be in trouble here. They're going to come through. YG, there's Sizz flashing forward, and that is going to be first blood they're picked up.
And damage output was never Shyvana's problem with ganking from the jungle. I think her damage output might have even gone up with the changes. Very nice first blood there.
Probably has, and as you noted, yes, Shyvana's still very, very scary, and that's really the thing. If you can keep your presence around the map where it matters, either in the enemy jungle by saying hi, or just, you know, showing up to lanes where you need to, you may not be able to gank that well, but my goodness, the damage works nicely. And Shyvana, as you said, very, very good on the damage front here. And in fact, even going to creep up towards the top, as you can spot on your minimap, just do a little bit of counter jungling, taking out the double golems.
And worth noting that instant CC in mid lane, great to gank for, as we see Godlike putting some damage up on top, and Shyvana's there as well.
Yes, he's going to come through now. Godlike actually getting ignited up in there. There's the damage coming through. Forced to flash there, but there the flash is after. Yanso wants to get it. They're going to chase under the tower, and another great aggressive move there from Sizz. That's 2 for 2 now on ganks.
And I just can't pass whether this is the new strength of Shyvana. I mean, she always had damage from the jungle, or whether this is just teams just really, not experienced with playing against Shyvana on the new patch.
Well, actually, only just noticeably started with actually Condemn there on Uzi. Could be bad news there. Dragon going in. The Lantern ridden there, but so much damage. Forced to jump out. The barrier blown there as well, just to make sure. And for all the aggressive potential of Thresh Tristana, that was a very, very nice condemn there from Dragon to completely force Uzi out of lane. And as I was saying about Shyvana, though, Doran's Blade was actually the start here. Now going back, got a Spirit Stone and an extra Doran's to start things off as well.
Her clear time will be insane. I mean, she never had struggles with that. And again, it's just one of those things of Shyvana was always strong in terms of damage and jungling. Has that really been buffed? Or again, Shyvana hasn't been seen in competitive play for a very long time.
Yeah, you have to go at least back to Season 2, possibly a little further back there. But yeah, it has been a while. Nice to see her kind of make a bit of a resurgence here. It'll be interesting to see throughout the LPL as we move through the season whether or not we see any more of that. But
will it be a one-week wonder like those Xerath picks were at the start of the NALCS, or is this something that's here to stay?
Yeah, we had like Blitzcrank Day at one point, I think on the first day of this week as well here for the LPL. So you never know. The players like their trends every now and then as White, so he could be in a bit of trouble. Sizz going to come through there as Otto's looking to make it happen. The damage coming through in there as well. But a good ult, they're going to force them back. Perfectly placed there for Whites. Now Lucky coming through as well to defend them. I think that's going to be okay. In fact, could turn around on the damage coming through. Ignite is there, so much damage down to the Evelyn, and Sizz just burns absolutely everybody on Shyvana. A nice 1-for-1 trade there for YG.
And with a Shyvana this far ahead, maybe we will see where this build does go.
That's true. I think the only other Shyvana we saw, as you mentioned, didn't get too far, just kind of built, what you expected there, Spirit of the Ancient Golem, and that was kind of all she wrote there for that game. But Shyvana definitely, almost snowballing at this point at 3-0. She's been involved in every single kill, including the one that they just lost there that Evelyn picked up. So, clearly, Sizz's pressure around the map for Shyvana, that's one thing. She does have high mobility. If she's in the right place at the right time or close enough, she can get in and really try and cause some havoc. And poor Evelyn has to feel so hard done by not even level 6 for Lucky.
No, she just, every trade, every skirmish, the 2v2 advantage is clearly in the advantage of Shyvana.
And that's the thing, Evelyn is really good in 2v1 situation, or a 3v2 if you're down in bottom lane where the duo laners are. So you get your ultimate on, you initiate, then you do plenty of damage. You've got decent follow-up, you've got red buff, you slow very, very nicely there, kind of following up with lots of autos, and you kind of get things done. You set the gank up for your teammate, and then you go from there. But of course, every single time, as you've noted, either Shyvana's just been there 2v1ing the other team, or Lucky's just run into Shyvana in the last kill there as well. So Evelyn not going to have fun. He does now have Agony's Embrace up, so level 6 is ready to go. But Royal playing from behind, not something we usually see from this team. They're actually quite aggressive.
And level 7 on the Shyvana, who of course with all the successful ganks. It hasn't been the jungle gank, in fact she's only maybe one camp ahead of Evelyn at this point, but she's really getting ahead with those jungle ganks.
Yeah, looks like Bluebuff going to go ahead and get donated to Rise here. Looks like he's going to pick that one up, as you can see just off on the minimap there. Down the bottom, up the top lane actually here, Godlike's just hanging out, CSing pretty nicely here up against, I guess, Diana, his actual lane opponent, who's mid-Rise, top Diana. They swap those around there. But it's, a small, actually quite even, sorry. It has a lead against Rise, but not against Diana. It looks like they're just farming up there in the top lane.
Yeah, Rise in a 1v1 matchup against Jarvan suffers the same as most AV casters do, like Kennen. Even though Rise does get tanky and can deal with those EQ combos early game before he has the Catalyst and the Rod of Ages, he just really does struggle with those. So Diana, much better matchup there. Can get maybe 2 points early in that shield, just be able to tank through some of Jarvan's early aggressive trading. Yep,
and then they pretty much just end up splitting the lane like they're doing now, and it's just everyone's farming up a Stormy. In fact, Hex Drinker up now for Jarvan, Seeker's Arm Guard up there for Diana. Kind of cute to see those items together, because they're kind of good against the opponent. It looks like top lane though, Sizz going to join the party yet again. Godlike in trouble, those Dragon Descent happen. Can't quite get to the flag, and that's a kill there for Yanso. In fact, may not have quite had his Q up there as well. Threw the banner out, knowing where he wanted to go, but again, 4 for 4 now on ganks for Shyvana.
It's just going to be a huge problem. And Shyvana always scaled well with items. If you get to the Frozen Mallet Bulwark stage as Shyvana, you were always super strong. Again, I'm just so curious as to where the item build will go here.
Yep, so YG going to try and pressure up this turret now as well. Lucky up in the top, covering it off. Again, really needs to get some work done here. It's not often we say, oh man, Shyvana's ganking presence is way more than this Evelyn, but that's actually what's happening here this game. Sizz just in the right place at the right time, kind of when he needs to be.
And one of the interesting things here is actually a comment on the Chinese metagame. If you compare the LPL to OGN, for example, you'll see a lot less warding during the laning phase. I mean, level 1 wards are there, but after that, there isn't the same ward coverage that you'd come to expect from, say, the OGN professional scene. Shyvana is really profiting from being able to have high mobility and really get into really good ganking positions because of those lack of wards. It's almost like an adaptation to the metagame here, but it's working a treat.
It really is, and I think that comment is very, very well put here. I mean, that's one of the nice things about, getting to actually cover this scene is that it is different. People have always called the Chinese meta sort of somewhat insular because they kind of only play against each other, and now that, people are getting to see the LPL games, maybe these sort of trends will come out here, and it'll be interesting to see how it develops here, because it really is their own little metagame.
And it's the sort of thing where after this weekend, with the 2 Shyvana games at minimum, of course we still have 3 games tonight, teams will be able to sit down, watch the replays and assess what is it about Shyvana that makes her strong with the changes? Has anything changed, or is it the same as before? And what can we adapt to make that difference? And I think definitely the ward coverage in the first 10 minutes can turn a damage gank from super effective to fairly minimal.
As a result, though, YG have a nice lead here early on in this game. They're about 1,500 gold ahead as we're all going to ride the lantern there off towards that dragon. There's Lucky going to start that one up. White's coming down as well there from mid lane, so nice timing here. Looks like the bottom lane actually backed off here for YG, and that's actually going to be a very, very clean dragon picked up from Royal. They're going to be really happy to even up the gold. More or less, they're about 700 the difference now between the two teams, but that was a little careless there. Speaking of warding, I guess, YG just did not know that was happening.
Just no ward coverage there, Pastry Time, and it's just a common trend of this scene to not really have those wards down early. It's just, I guess, something that's developed much like how the metagame developed from, World Elite's late game approach to kind of ramping up early game pressure to counter that. The warding is something that can easily be exploited.
Yeah, an ult trader for an ult there down the bottom lane as final hour gets used there for Vayne. Buster shot used in there as well. Vayne trying to chase down that Thresh as Tabe was forced to flash away. But Tristana just Buster shot her just to make sure there, and Shyvana was down there as well. Looks like they're going to try and turn the bottom lane into a push now. And I mean, Shyvana, one of the things she definitely does well is dive. She has that Spirit of the Ancient Golem already up, so could go in. Tabe looks for the box there to try and trap Shyvana in, but doesn't quite work out. Will defend the tower just for now, but again, the bottom lane here not really going the way they wanted it to. And that's the thing, when you have this sort of lane, it's fairly aggressive. You want to try and make plays where you can. As it is, though, both of them are just kind of farming here. They'll work up towards their Blade of the Ruined Kings, which is the item I assume with the Bilgewater Cutlasses they're both building towards here. And looks like they're going to go quite fast here, skipping a Doran's Blade, which makes sense as well. You don't generally need the second Doran's unless you're either in a lot of trouble or you're doing very, very well. But, I mean, right now the bottom tower gone. YG, again, still ahead here. Apart from that one dragon, they missed 4-1 up in kills and 1-0 up in towers.
The Blade of the Ruined King rush on Tristana makes a lot of sense. I think it's a situation.
Good ult there as well, Otto. Forced to flash there. Sorry as I had to cut you off, but Rise is going to get out of there from mid lane.
I think the Blade of the Ruined King rush on Trist is situational just because, I mean, the Bilgewater is really great to have the early lifesteal and the active to add to your burst, but rushing it, instead of maybe just building into a BF Sword and Infinity Edge, is situational just because, she gets a lot out of crit. She has a lot of attack speed from her Qs, so it does synergize really nicely with her. But, I mean, this game, you're going to have a Shyvana running at you, and her, the one thing about her kit, whether it's ganking or teamfights, is speed. So being able to sap that speed for the 4 seconds is really, really strong. Yeah,
I mean, one of the things that I think people are getting to know better in League of Legends is, the game still does develop, still kind of young, 3-ish years in the making so far. But, item timings here is down the bottom lane. That's bad news for Tabe. Condemned to the wall. Crescendoed up in there as well, and no getting away from Vayne with final hour ticking away. That's going to be a very clean kill down the bottom. And trouble as well, actually. Lucky going to go in with the Agony's Embrace. Yansu does get the turret, trying to get away there from the Eve. The red buff ticking away as well. Godlike looking to get in there. Just needs EQ Cataclysm. There he comes. The Vision's still there. Does not want to use the ult. Just Golden Aegis there for the slow. And a very nice presence of mind there from Godlike. Just enough to finish her off there. And did not need to blow that Cataclysm.
Absolutely. Had Cataclysm up. I mean, there was the flash up on Diana, but she knew that she would just get counter flashed by Jarvan. So she just thought, hold on to the cooldown and hope that he blows his.
Yep, didn't work there either. In fact, Godlike retained all the important cooldowns there in that one, and a nice gank from Lucky finally tips the bounce a little back here for Royal as they're still a few thousand gold behind there, about 2 here in this game, but they do get a second kill on the board here, trying to keep a foothold in this game, and we'll see what they can do here. The advantage still nice here for YG. As we said, that Shyvana ticking away there with a very fast Spirit of the Ancient Golem. As we said, curious to see what she goes next, because this is kind of where we got up to with the last Shyvana again this weekend in terms of build. It's like, yeah, build this item that everyone builds, and then we're not sure because we didn't see more of the game.
I think here, if Otto can get access to his Spirit Visage really soon against this double AP comp from Royal, having 2 really tanky frontliners could be massive for YG at any future Dragon fights. I mean, Spirit Visage against double AP is so strong after the buffs, so I think that's kind of the thing that YG need for a team fight. Royal just need an amazing initiation on Dragon. If they can lock him down here, I mean, they have so many CCs and so many different ways to initiate, then I think the fight's theirs.
Yeah, almost reminiscent of OMG actually, with all their big teamfight control ultimates, and if they can chain just a couple of them together, as you said, I mean, if Thresh gets a hook, if Jarvan lands an EQ Cataclysm, if Agony's Embrace happens, then of course if the Orianna Ball is standing on the right person in the right place, then absolutely that Vayne could go down very, very quickly. But I mean, it's just a matter of YG, what do they want to do with their comp? Are they going to farm up enough to get tanky here? Are they going to be able to initiate? They're pushing quite aggressively actually. I do like this here. They're kind of breaking away from their lanes. They got the only 2 towers of the game belong to them, and they're going to work on this one here in mid.
And with all that pick potential, if Royal had this 2-0 turret advantage, it could turn it into 3 turrets. I mean, the game will be theirs in much the same style that OMG puts out, just because they'd be able to aggressively use an ult, get a pick off, and still have multiple control ults for a fight. When they're behind, it's kind of like when you blitzcrank when you're behind. You don't have the opportunity to get that pick power because you don't have the ability to ward aggressively or just be...
very aggressive there from Whites. Oh, they're going to get ulted. Good crescendo, but I don't know if it's quite enough to save Rise. It is not going to be. Love Cryboy there with an absolutely heroic ult on everybody there, but only delays the inevitable as Paul Rise still stuck in all that damage, not able to get out of that one, and that is exactly the type of thing that Royals comp can do here. But YG may answer here. A lot of the ults used actually. The answer looking a little feisty. They wanted to go in perhaps, but not going to make it happen. Royal now going to try and set up a siege here in the mid, and Orianna Tristana pretty annoying in terms of siege potential.
And Vayne's quickly rotating here to stop the turret going down.
Could still go down as well. Tristana, how many points of rapid fire do you have? Never mind. White's going to get initiated on the Dragon's Descent in there, as that's going to be the first kill coming out. The damage in there as well. Godlike actually going with the Cataclysm, but Dragon gets over the top of it there, tumbling under it there, and is able to get onto Tristana. A good condemn there as well for the follow-up, as Godlike tried to counter-initiate there, completely out of position with no other ults left there, unfortunately for the Royal Club. And now the counter push will continue here for YG. 2 quick kills for them for, I guess, the Rise who died earlier, and probably this mid turret as well.
Such a tanky Shyvana here, and of course her base damage values are very, very high, so able to build tanky here. Giant's Belt is a second pickup here. Will it be a Sunfire Cape just to have even more AoE magic damage? Or perhaps even a Warmog or another, or maybe even a Randuin's coming out here.
Well, they're all good. That's the nice thing about Shyvana. Really, you just need to get big and tanky, and the damage kind of takes care of itself for the most part, so... Definitely like the Giants belt there. I also like, I guess he did pick it up, but we didn't see boots for a very long time on Sizz actually. He delayed them for quite a while. I think possibly even after this current Giants belt, he may have picked it up with it. And I really like that on Shyvana. Obviously with Burnout, you've got a natural movement speed ability. You're kind of quick and kind of nippy generally. So I like that Sizz, was like, I don't actually need this for now. I'm going to get my damage early when I need it. I'll get my Spirited Ancient Golem because I can afford it now and it's a good cost-effective item. And I'll pick up my boots when I need them, which is, almost 20 minutes into the game here.
And that ultimate on such a short cooldown. Now you see it's already back up for Shyvana, so I mean the picking up of the flat health is actually very smart on her, just because like Cho'Gath, sorry, the opposite of Cho'Gath, she does get the free resists, which have been shifted to her passive now from her ultimate, so she already has access to the free armor and magic resists, so health obviously synergized with that very nicely.
It's good stuff here. Royal picking up yet another dragon, by the way. A good steal there from Sizz as well. Smites away that blue buff. Couldn't make it in time for the dragon, unfortunately, but he's going to pick up that buff there instead. And again, Royal really just... That dragon time is keeping him in this game. They kind of snuck the first one in, were able to pink water yet again and sneak that one through. And as you can see, the gold difference here, almost 3,500, kind of edging towards 4k at this point. And you have to think if YG had gotten both those dragons as well, it would look way worse here for Royal. You're probably closer to about 6k behind in this game.
But 4 turrets to 0 is an absolutely massive advantage for the Young Glory here. And the pick comp just has no room to get picked. It took a flash command attack, command shockwave from Whites to get a pick before, and that's only something you can do every 5 minutes. They have to find a way to siege down some turrets here to open up pick potential, do Royal.
Absolutely, we always talk about, objectives being great. Obviously towers are, get a bit of gold there, but opening up space on the map is very, very important, and especially, as you said, Papa, when you have a comp like Royals, you need to, be able to get through, aggressively ward, kind of watch people going through the jungle and moving between the lanes, and then use your ultimates to pick somebody off. And of course, with 0 turrets currently on board for Royal, that's going to be very, very tricky for them. It's like YG now as well. Moving up towards the Baron, actually, and Oracle's up now for Love Cryboy, who has actually delayed his Ruby Sightstone to pick that one up nice and early here. But this is the kind of place where YG really would love an Oracles. They've got 4 turrets down, plenty of room to maneuver through the enemy jungle. In fact, that's bad news there for Eve. Gonna get spotted off, walk through a pink ward there, and that's obliteration there as the answer comes in there. The crescendo not even needed there for Love Cryboy, but wanted to make sure that Eve went absolutely nowhere. And at Lucky, unfortunately, the only place Eve is now is dead for 20 more seconds.
Absolutely, and that pick is so important just because even though they know they're ahead here, I mean, doing Baron against a team with that much AoE initiation, I mean, we say pick comp, you know, effectively it is a team fighting comp first, a pick comp only in the Chinese metagame of using her ults to get kills or to get picks that way. I mean, doing any sort of objective.
Oh, very cute there. Godlike going in. Love Cryboy in trouble, but not enough. Shyvana getting out there as well. The damage coming through. Cataclysm there for Godlike. A good Zonny is there as well for Yancer, and everybody from YG is backing out. Beautiful moves there to make sure they get out of that one unscathed. In fact, Uzi now in trouble as well. Shyvana turning around. They're looking for the damage. Dragon going in very aggressively. Does get the kill, but goes down himself. Now YG continue to have Sizz so tanky under that tower. Is able to do a lot of work there. Sona chasing down there as well. White somehow alive. No goes down in there as well. And now it's 1v1 here. Sona versus Evelyn. The Oracle's in there as well. So not even Stealth will help. And the last Q there takes it out. And oh my God.
That showed amazing knowledge of the Q range there, Pastry Time. That must have been a max range Q. I mean, I miss laning Harass as Sona, so hitting that one was just perfect play from a Love Cryboy.
Clearly showing that Sona, the superior champion to Evelyn there, as the only one left standing in that team
Absolutely,
fight.
That's all I took away from that as well.
And oh, gonna get the tower here as well, I think. The minions maybe not enough. No, there it goes! Very nicely timed once again there for Love Cryboy. Didn't even need to be there for the last auto, clearing out wards as Sona walks away there as well. And that's insult to injury, isn't it? I mean, it was going to be fine if that tower stayed up. Actually, amazing fight from both teams there. Once from Royal to actually counter-initiate effectively there, and then once from YG to actually kind of get out and they get back in when they needed to, realizing they could possibly win the fight. So the fact that 9 people died in that tower dive was actually very impressive on both sides, but unfortunately, Evelyn not enough there against the Sona as things go down, and that's going to be the 5th tower taken here for YG.
I'm really liking the synergy out of some of these picks. You see here the Abyssal Scepter coming out of Diana. A cool Diana item, don't get me wrong, but that's just making the base damage values from Shyvana, that consistent magic damage she puts out.
Oh, getting there as well. Wombo combo coming through. Cataclysm on the top there. Otto could be in trouble now. So Jarvan trying to get it done. Sizz actually forced out of the Cataclysm there. Yancer very deep in there. A good zombies there. The team maybe can catch up at YG. Chasing around the back there as well, trying to pick up Lucky, who they will get. Yancer very low, but still alive there. The Sona heal just in time. Uzi now in a lot of trouble there. Forced to flash out of the way. Sizz though flashing fast there, and it's just carnage here for Shyvana. Dragons are set on the top there for the double kill as Thresh goes down, and YG just have the answer every single time. Rise took a very long time to die there as Sizz will chase there under the turret, but get no one else there. A 3-for-1 trade overall. A great zone is there from Yancer. YG peeled to kill an Evelyn and still managed to kill everybody else. They basically 3v4'd part of that fight there in mid, and just Shyvana is not dying in these team fights, it seems like. They're going to go back in though. Jarvan going to look for it again. Yancer maybe going to go down here, but Diana quite tanky. Activates the shield, does go down there as Orianna picks up that kill, and now Dragon still chasing him down, trying to get some kills off, take a little bit too much damage. The tumble for the last auto picks it up, but that will be a trade as Jarvan's going to get in there as well. A good knock up there as well as Jarvan flashes after Sizz. Now Shyvana likely going down here, and Royal are actually keeping themselves in this one. Kind of lost that last fight. Love Cryboy once again. Can he 1v2? I don't think Hero Sona's going to make it, but will make it out alive. Look pretty scary though with double buffs, I have to say. And again, damage control there for Royal really good as he managed to pick up some key kills as YG maybe a little too aggressive to get in that base.
And the aggression has certainly been a little bit over the top, but Royal aren't in a position to take any objectives here. Like, these are just kills to get them back in the game in terms of maybe a little bit of gold, but certainly not being able to translate that into any key objectives.
Yeah, and in all fairness, the mid inhibitor's actually down in there as well. But all those towers and structures got pushed down there through the mid lane. So that advantage, I believe, now in the hands of YG, if my eyes do not deceive me, just scanning over the minimap there. So again, another advantage here for YG. You can see they're still about 6,000 gold ahead, or creeping up towards that one here. And Royal, really, they just have to make something with their comp work, because if this team keeps going the way it's going here for YG, late game's going to feel really difficult with a tanky Ryze, a tanky Shyvana, a tanky Diana, and then just Vayne damage all over the place.
And the team fights haven't been working. There have been some beautiful EQ combinations into that command shockwave, but the tanky Ryze and the Ryze, Shyvana, Diana front lane, all of them very tanky, all of them have abilities to get out of fights, and they're just not dying. And so that's why the team fighting comp aspect here is probably too far behind to engage in an even 5v5 fight. Their only option here is to get those aggressive wards down, or even their defensive wards down here, clear with oracles and try and get a pick.
Yep. Remember, if you're going to go over to Uzi, I mean, classically in double AP, your strongest point is the mid game. You know, a lot of your early game when you play double AP is worked around, let's make our mid game as good as it possibly can, and then when we pick up our items and wombo combo them, it just completely rolls through that fight in the hardest way possible. And that's usually the point. You know, if it gets a little later, sometimes it kind of tips over and it's like, well, the AoE is not really killing anyone anymore because they're all so tanky, and it feels like YG were the tanky comp and they got ahead early, so Royal could potentially be in a lot of trouble here. And of course YG going to continue being aggressive here, try and move up towards the top as well.
Yeah, Vayne looking massive here. Infinity Edge, Blade of the Ruined King, and a Zeal completed here. No boots too, so slightly less move speed than Tristana here, but looking very menacing nonetheless.
Obviously got the Sona E there for that one. That's maybe what Dragon's thinking, or maybe just wanted to make sure that Infinity Edge was finished up here as well. I have to say, I do like that YG aren't going in for Baron. They're clearing it out. They're keeping vision exclusively around the area just to keep Royal honest, but they're not rushing it. I think they understand that they might not have the best siege comp, but I think they feel confident in their ability to dive. You know, they've got Shyvana, who's very, very tanky. They've got a good front line, as we've noted. Even Diana is a very good tower diver as well. So I think I like the fact that YG are taking their time with this Baron, looking towards it now, maybe going to go for it, but you know what, they're not in a rush here. They've got the middle inhibitor, they've got room here on the map, they can take their time in this game.
And with Baron having that attack that increases the amount of magic damage you take against the double AP crazy initiation from Royal, it's probably the safest choice, but they have aggroed it now.
Almost spoke too soon. They do finish the Baron off though. Oh, Godlike going in the back there. There's a box coming out there. Lucky taking a lot of damage here as Dragon's going to pick that one up. Now Uzi could be in trouble. Yanso there with the zombies there. Tabe not going to be able to finish that one up. And the rest of YG chasing through. They're trying to clean up the back, but Jarvan flicks himself over the other side with EQ, I think. Managed to get out of there. Only the one kill there is Lucky. Got obliterated there by YG's burst. But thankfully for YG, a very well-timed Baron there. Just enough damage there to make sure they got it before Royal could get in. And that almost felt a little risky to me, but I'll give YG the credit. That looked very, very calculated for that objective.
Well, they doubled down and checked their ward coverage twice there. They didn't want to go on unless they had very, very advanced warning and clearly calculated the damage output well for the Baron.
Yeah, and Baron picked up very cleanly there. I think someone almost got in there. I think Lucky was trying to sneak a peek in there. Jarvan over the top looking for there as well, but Sizz under pressure there manages to complete the smite very comfortably. And I think something to note there that was nice, Shyvana's 2 levels ahead of Evelynn in terms of levels right now, and of course smite scales with levels, so Sizz was never really in a position where he's going to get outsmited.
No, it did look like a very close shave, but you're right, the 2-level advantage would take a very large mechanical error to miss the Baron smite there.
And thankfully did not miss it there, and YG now in an even better position. You know, they've really just started well early with all the Shyvana, and Shyvana seems to be carrying them nicely through here, the mid-game as well. Approaching up towards the 28.5 minute mark in this one, 6-0 in tower still for YG. I think probably the biggest difference maker.
And Young Glory picking up this one will be massive for them because although they do have 2 wins on the board already, they were both against EPHK. So this would be their first time taking out anyone apart from the team they beat at the TGA Summer Series to make it to the LPL.
I believe EPHK also their team without a win so far.
That's correct.
So, you know, they're certainly a good team, but obviously
they were the first team to play them twice, so they did theoretically have that advantage in terms of the scoreboard.
That's true too, so they'd love to take another win away here. Royal, certainly no slouches, have looked, I guess, a little hot and cold here, and I guess this is one of the things where they've clearly, you know, you can see what their comp's trying to do, but it hasn't worked out. Middle inhibitor gonna come out here as well. I mean, Royal could maybe make it happen with a great team fight, but this looks very scary here. YG with Baron moving into your base, everyone is tanky, doing silly amounts of damage. No Spirit Visage yet for Rise, but he's finished himself up a Seraph's Embrace there as well. I mean, you just look down the items there for YG. There's a world of difference despite the gold difference. I guess now being a pretty significant 8k or so.
But still a super, super tanky Rise in addition to the resists and tankiness on Diana. And Shyvana, she's just out of control.
Everyone's out of control here for YG. They're going to go in for the dive again. Jarvan coming out the back trying to get it done. There's the Youngster in the back going through as well. Lots of damage coming through. Crescendo nabs the tip there as Jarvan's going to get stunned up by that one. Sizz so tanky they're going to soak up all that damage. Dragon now coming through as well as Lucky's going to get popped up by the Silver Water. Good ult actually. Going to almost spot Dragon off there. But Rise there continuing on there with a little bit of movement speed from Desperate Power. Cleans up the kill there, and YG have to think are going to close out this game now. 4-0 in that last team fight as the Baron buff really tips it over the edge here. And this would be quite the defense from White if it could make it happen, but if they don't lose everything now, Royal are going to lose at least most of their base.
It's looking unlikely. Pastry time is 1. Nexus turret down. Vayne at full health. I think this is going to be Young Glory finally beating a seasoned member of the Tencent LPL.
It looks like Royal are going to pick up a loss here in this one, and there it is. Young Glory with some very, very impressive play, led there by Shyvana. Take out the first game here, week 3, day 3 of the LPL against Royal, and what a way to close out their weekend. I think they'll be very happy to pick up a win, as you said, against a different team.
And 2 for 2 for that Shyvana pick. What I'll say here, though, Pastry Time, regarding Shyvana, is that there are definitely champions who are strongest in their home scene that aren't necessarily suited to being strong across the board. There's been a lot of champions who have been insta-pick across all scenes, like Ryze and Kennen and Jace, for example, recently. But I mean, Twisted Fate, for example, 100% pick rate in OGN consistently hasn't seen quite that level of play in NA, just because you don't have quite the same metagame there. I mean, it's still very strong, still sees a lot of play, but it wasn't instantly 100% pick ban. It wasn't instantly imported. This Shyvana pick is genius in the Tencent LPL for sure, because warding is lax consistently, and Shyvana can prey on that and get damage ganks down that are super effective. She doesn't have that CC, but if the lanes take CC, her damage is incredible from ganks and can prey on unsuspecting foes. So I love Shyvana in the Tencent LPL scene, because it's just, I mean, it's proven twice to be a super powerful pick.
I couldn't agree more, and I guess the question is, will we see any more there? That's the first game. Of course, 3 more to come up here on day 3 here, and we'll continue coverage here. Of course, if you'd like to check out the other Shyvana games, and of course the rest of them as well, please head over to youtube.com/lolchamp series, where you can check out all those VODs. But we'll be back here continuing coverage week 3, day 3 of the Tencent LPL summer.